Now, there are many ways that we can look at software RAID, redundancy for our disk, within Linux. We can do it with LVM, but commonly we can also do it with multi-disk administration. So RAID is our redundant array of inexpensive disks. It's usually used to create fault-tolerant disk arrays, but doesn't have to be. Now, as we start creating our traditional Linux software RAID devices, they'll also be creating dev mapper devices, much in the same way as we saw with LVM. RAID is also totally integrated into the BetterFS file system, but that's still at its experimental stage. There are different levels of RAID. We can have linear, where we're just using it to extend our volume. RAID 0 is similar, but the devices, the disks, have to be of a similar size. RAID 1, we mirror data between devices of a similar size. And RAID 4, 5, and 6 is striping data, so providing redundancy, but also creating some parity information so we know what is stored on each disk. One of the things to do is make sure, obviously, we've got our devices. Well, once we've created our device files, then we can go through and make sure that we have our multi-disk administration installed, much in the same way as we had to install LVM. That will then create a proc file, mdstat, where we can actually see what is happening with our RAID devices. To create the RAID device, it's quite a long command this, but we can use then our multi-disk administration tool to create. We can write out to the screen, so we turn on verbose. We're creating then dev md0. We're setting mirroring, and we're using 2 devices. We could also add in a spare device, so if one of our devices failed, then we have a hot spare where it can continue in our RAID. Once we've done that, we can look at our mdstat file, and we should have details on what is happening. And we should also be able to check with lsmod that the RAID module is actually now loaded. Our RAID configuration needs to be stored, though. So we can go through and look at the detail. We can scan our disks and store that information in the mdadm.conf. Now, you will see all of these commands within the demonstrations, so I won't worry too much about the detail here at the moment, but at least having the information in the slides gives you ready reference without having to find it within the video. The last part that we're going to look at here is looking at how we can stop our array and then assemble it or start it again. This is really important to make sure that our configuration file is working. Now, come on, let's create some more devices. And here we are in our command line. Let's use Ctrl and R, and I'm going to search for fallocate. We want to create 2 more disk files. I hit escape because I don't want to run the command, but then I can change it to disk 4 and then disk 5. Each are being 1 gig. So we seem good to go with this, but of course we've got to use Ctrl and R again to reverse search my history, but we're going to be looking for LO setup now. Again, we don't want to run the commands directly, so we can go through and take a look at modifying them to add in disk 4 and then adding in disk 5. We can see that gives me loop devices 19 and 20. So we should be pretty good to go with this now. But we do also need to make sure that we install our mdadm, our utilities. So let's make sure they are installed in this demonstration. So much in the same way as we had to install LVM, if software isn't installed, you're going to need to make it available, aren't you? So we can allow this to run through. It shouldn't take too long. And here you go. It was all in real time. And the last thing to do, we should now be able to see the state of our multi-disk administration by looking at the proc file system and mdstat. Now, of course, we don't have anything at the moment, so this is a fresh install, but this is where we can get information about our RAID devices.